truck, taking a peek at the media screen for the vehicle. So this is Ford's new Sync4 system that was introduced last year in the 2021 F-150, but just this overall look and layout reminds me a little bit more of the Mach-E and then the Ford Edge. So it's kind of like this nice big phablet style screen. One thing to point out, there are technically two different screen choices that are available for this vehicle. It's going to depend on which version of the vehicle you're in and which packages and options that you've gone for. But this is the largest available screen, so it's a 15.5-inch screen, which is absolutely ridiculous. But we're going to dive through so you can learn everything you need to know about what's going on with this media screen. So starting off along the very top left-hand side, we've got our little car icon. So pressing that gives us a ton of options that are available. So starting off with our camera along the very top, so you can see there, we've got our front-facing camera. We've got our full 360 view, which we can use in order to go between different options there as well. So if we want to kind of see what's going on one way versus the other, we've got that flexibility. That reverse sensing system, so the beeping as we get closer to obstacles. If you're not a fan of that, yeah, you can hear it going now. But if you're not a fan of that, you do have the flexibility of turning it off if you want to. Pressing the little hamburger icon gives us the full 360 view. We've got our reverse camera view as well as our sensing system so we can see what's going on all the way around us. Pressing again gives us a front partial view and then a front 180-degree view. And then our last view is going to be our hitch view, which is useful if we are going to be backing up and we're getting into a hitch situation. So if we're pulling a trailer, we want to make sure that we're lined up perfectly. This is where we're going to go in order to get that lower down view instead. We can just jump back to our full 360 view instead. That's going to be the basics of that camera. Moving into our towing, as of right now, no active trailer, but we could easily add a trailer if we want to. All we're going to do is enter the name, the dimensions, and things like that. We've got our checklist, which is fantastic, so we can, as we're going conventional, it gives us literally a step-by-step directions, so we can know exactly what we're supposed to be doing in order to attach our trailer safely. So I love that this came in the new Sync4 Media Screen. I just think it's so user-friendly, as you can see there, going through to make sure you're properly setting your trailer up. We can then hop into settings there, so we can either press the settings button that was along the very top, or we can get in here. We've got our trailer notification, our sway control, which is useful if you're going to be pulling a trailer, because if the vehicle senses that there's trailer sway going on, it's automatically going to apply engine braking to get that sway out of control. If you have multiple trailers connected, we do have the flexibility of selecting our default trailer, then we can add in a trailer along the bottom on top of that. Moving back, let's go into our controls again. So you can see we've got our basic setup there. Moving into our zone lighting. So we do have the flexibility of adjusting our zone lighting across the board. We can turn the power on and we can have all of our lights around the vehicle. So useful if you're working later on at night. If you need to pack the vehicle later on at night, we can just go in order to turn the zone lighting on or off as necessary. And then along the bottom, you have the option of pressing all zones to turn everything on instead. Then we can go into some additional settings. So as you can see, we've got a series of other settings that are available there. Back into our controls and turning off again. Parking, so we do have a few different options that are available. So the vehicle can help us out with just regular navigate to parking, or we've got our park assist. So pressing the little P button there gives us the flexibility of using park assist, and that's going to help us out with either parallel parking, we've got perpendicular parking, or parallel park out. But let me go through the process and show you how this works. Well, folks, so this vehicle does have the option for the park assist system, and it works really, really simply. So if we weren't on this screen here, all we're going to do is there's a little P button right down the middle of the center stack. You're just going to press that button, and when you do, you've got either navigate to parking or the active park assist. And it can help us out with either parallel parking, perpendicular parking, or parallel park out. So we're going to start off with our parallel park. So in order to do that, we need to drive forward in order to find a spot for parallel park to work. So let's start driving forward here. And this is a pretty big car, so it's going to take a second for it to find a spot that's going to work. No, that's not a spot. That's not going to work. That's not going to work, fella. Even this, I don't know if this will work either. No dice. There we go. Okay, perfect. So it's saying it found a spot. So what we have to do now is shift into neutral, foot off the brake, and we're just going to press and hold the little P park assist button. And then the vehicle is going to start doing its thing. So it's going to start backing us up. Come on, fella. There we go. Okay, this is a little ballsier than I was thinking. I didn't think it was going to try to get into this spot. But one of the great things is that we don't have to worry about working the gas or the brake. The car is actually doing that for us. So you can see there, it's kind of backing us up, getting a little tight. Perfect, and pulling us forward there. It's pretty straightforward, but the car in front of us has actually moved, so this is going to make this process even easier now. But you can see there, so it's saying shift to cancel there if we want to, but it's pretty much got us in the space. We've got a little countdown timer there going, and it should... Perfect. Finished. So it's that simple to be able to use the parallel park in system. Using the parallel park out is also straightforward. So we press the little P button again. We go active park assist, and I want to go parallel park out to the left. Obviously there's nobody in front of me, so that makes it a little bit easier now, but if there was somebody there, we'd do the same thing. So we would just shift into neutral, and then from there, all we do is take our foot off the gas, the brake, etc. We press and hold the P button, and what it's going to do is it'll back us up a little bit and then crank the steering wheel, but there's nobody in front of us right now, so it just makes that process easier. If there was somebody in front of us, it would back us up in order to make sure we can get into that spot a bit easier. But it's cranked the wheel all the way to the side now. And then all I have to do is hit the gas and I'm good to go. So we're going to go across, and next step is going to be parallel, or perpendicular park, I should say. So I'm going to head back to the dealership lot, park this bad boy, and let's go for it. All right, perpendicular is a little bit easier to use. Like parallel park is nice, really nice, especially if you're not a big fan of parallel parking, especially with this truck. It's the max. It's a very, very large vehicle. So having the perpendicular park assist is really nice. So same idea, we're just gonna hit the little P button again there, navigate to parking, and we can go parallel or park assist now, so perpendicular. Default, even on the parallel park, it's going to look on the right side first, but we can use the left turn stick for it to look on the left side instead. And then all we do, we just follow the directions. So we just need to drive forward now. That's not a spot. That's a spot. There we go. Okay, perfect. I was like, there's no way that one was a spot. It just caught it because I had turned as I went. But same idea. We're just going to flip it into neutral now. Foot off the brake, and all we're doing is pressing and holding the little P park assist button there, and it's flipping around on the screen. So as you can see there, it's backing us up, and we've got a little countdown timer, very similar to what we saw on the parallel park system side of things. So it's backing us up into this nice, big, beefy spot that I've got here. Oh, this truck is huge, huge. But it's kind of neat because you can see, like, I'm full, like, gas brake, my foot's completely off the gas brake there, but the car is moving everything. So it's giving it the gas, giving it the brake, it's rotating the wheel completely, and all I need to worry about and focus on here is pressing the little P button there. Oh yeah, you're getting close in the front there, fella. Closer than comfort. Like, oh God. It's like a teeny little bit close in the front there, but it stopped it before it hit somebody, which was the best part. So you know that it's working when you don't hear any scraping going. Is that a good thing to say? But it's working. That's the important part. As long as it works, that's all that we care about. And it's backing us up there. You can see the countdown timer going, and we are good to go. So that is a really great system. I love how simple it is, and being able to go left side versus right side just by using the turning stick, I think is brilliant. And that's going to be the basics there. We've got our parking aid, and then some options for our seat settings. So seat, we have the flexibility of turning on massage seats. You can hear it going right now, so really nice. We can select individual options there. So if you are going to be driving if you're going to be driving longer distance trips, having these cushions going as you drive, really, really nice. So you can see there along the lower part, I'm literally getting a butt massage as I'm giving you this walk around, which is amazing. Then we can easily turn off. We do have the flexibility of adjusting individual portions of the seat as well. So we've got our base controls along the driver passenger side seat, but we do have the flexibility of adjusting out that tiny little bit more if we want to create a little bit more of a unique feel for us. And then depending on the model that you're in, if your vehicle does feature these options, it's fantastic. And it's all tied into that seat memory system as well. But if you want a fuller walk around on that, check down in the description below. And that's the same for the driver passenger side. We can easily turn the massage on or off as necessary, but that massage seat, really, really nice. We've got our valet mode, so we enter in a nice difficult number like 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't use 1, 2, 3, 4, use something challenging, but as you can see there, Everything with the exception of our climate control is locked out. So if we had a valet driver, they would have the flexibility to go through and navigate through all of our different climate control settings, but you can't actually go through the screen again until you physically enter in that 4-digit number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, and as you can see there, we're now fully connected again. So it's that simple to be able to use it. And then once the screen's unlocked, hopping back into our controls, you can see that we've already gone through all of the available controls. So next up, we've got our settings icon there, which gives us a ton of different options that are available for the settings of the vehicle. So starting off, we have, even more. Let's start at the very top. So we've got our sound settings. So tone, we can change out treble, mid-range, bass. I normally find somewhere along here is usually pretty good. So treble down a little bit, bass cranked a bit, gives you a good sound. One of the cool things is that we do have a few different ways that we can tune as well. What we can do, 94.9 FM.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
So we do have the flexibility of using our voice in order to change stations. Literally car shaking right now. It sounds amazing, looks amazing. It's an unbelievable sound system that we've got inside of this vehicle. But we've got, as you can see there, a little bit of an adjustment, or we can just do a reset if we want. We can also figure out exactly where we want the focus of the audio to be. So if you're by yourself, focus on you, or you can just have it go right throughout the center there instead. Speed compensated volume, as we start to speed, for up faster, slower, whatever the case may be, we can have the volume adjust as necessary. And then we've either got stereo or surround audio instead. Different options for our radio. So I always recommend just going to our max preset pages, which will be 6. I'll show you why when we get into the radio, but this is just going to be for the base settings there. We've got our HD radio and then our radio text. And then next up is adding in a phone. So as you can see there, no phones are connected, and it's actually really easy in order to be able to do it. So I'm going to take you through the process of adding a phone in. We're going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So you're just going to make sure that your Bluetooth is turned on and hit add phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Just connecting to Expedition.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. Do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? I'm going to say no for this situation. And it should take a second there.
For your safety, connected. Please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
All right, so we're fully connected. You can see my phone along the very bottom. So if I just wanted to use Bluetooth audio, I can go this route in order to be able to do it. If I had songs on my phone, I could use that instead. And then as you can see, the phone also supports Apple CarPlay. And then along the screen itself, it's saying, do we want to allow CarPlay with my Expedition? So let's use. And we've also got our 911 assist, so let's turn that on as well. 911 assist is useful because if you're ever in an accident and the vehicle recognizes it's that collision, it's going to automatically dial 911 for us. We hit finish and it's connecting to CarPlay now. Do we want to enable CarPlay? Absolutely, let's enable. Connecting to CarPlay on my phone. Perfect, and a few seconds in and we are fully connected. So as you can see there, we've got a mix of, we've got, Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, and we've got Waze. So yeah, we do have factory navigation, but if we want to, we do have the flexibility, so we can go a little bit fuller screen, but look at all of this real estate. And now it is kind of nice because it pushes everything along the very bottom there instead, so we can kind of go up and down between different trays if we want to. We can flip back into our factory navigation, or if we wanted to use one of these other map applications, we've got the flexibility to be able to do it. And the screen, pretty responsive there. Now this is, as you can see there, connected through Waze, and then we can press the button along the very bottom here in order to jump back to this main screen. So we can go left, right, we can minimize the screen instead if we want to. As I said, we've got Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps and Waze that can be used through this screen. Live One is a radio app, so as you can see there, stations, originals, featured, things like that. We can press the button. Oh, and one other thing to point out, along the bottom right-hand side of the tray, you can see exactly what your current status is. So as of right now, what I'm connected to, LTE, my battery life, etc. Moving back home, we've got this base setting again. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can do that very simply on top of that. And that's the phone connected. So as you saw there, very straightforward. On the phone, if we go Settings, General, we're going to go to CarPlay. We've got the Expedition. We can customize, and if you want to customize some things, so if you prefer to listen to your podcast a little bit more, or if you're a big fan of your audiobooks, you can do a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust these things as necessary. So you can literally customize the screen. If you want to, you can also remove things. So they're fully removed from the vehicle there, but they are back on Apple CarPlay. Now, if for whatever reason CarPlay is not working for you, just make sure you go back to this same screen. So you go Settings, CarPlay, look for your vehicle, and then make sure that CarPlay is toggled on, because turning it off, as you can see there, CarPlay is now disconnected. So I do need to turn CarPlay back on in order for this to be able to reconnect again, but it's literally that straightforward. So as you can see there, so it's saying that it failed because I didn't give it permission earlier to be able to connect. But once it did fully connect, as you can see, right back into CarPlay again. So it's that simple being able to set this phone up inside of this vehicle. We can press there in order to be able to launch back in. As you can see, we've got our favorites, we've got recents, contacts, voicemails, and a number of other options. And then because we are connected through CarPlay, you can see along the very bottom, we've got a few other options available. If we press the little settings button along the very top, we can now add in another phone if we want, or we can look at some other settings. So we can disable CarPlay. We can look at my phone settings now, so we can remove phone. We can connect to Bluetooth media. So if you wanted to listen to your phone audio instead, you've got the flexibility to do it here. But it's that simple setting up an iPhone inside of the Expedition. Now, setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So if you weren't on this screen, let's say we're out of there, and if we are, let's say, on our radio instead. So you're here. If you need to add in a phone, you could just connect back through this way instead. You can go to your settings along the very top, go into our settings. We've got our phone list there. So we've got a few different ways we can get to it. We're just going to hit add phone, and we want to disconnect. So yes, we need to make sure we disconnect.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Okay, and then on our Bluetooth, what we want to do, perfect. So it's automatically connecting. So let's hit connect. Do we want to allow my contacts to sync up? I'm just going to say skip for now. Same thing with the SMS, so I'm going to say no to both.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Perfect, and we are done there. So we're connected. So what I'm going to do is, I can't click off. So I've either got to enable or disable. I'm going to disable to show you how to set this up separately. So if your phone's already connected and you want to set up Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, all we do is go back to this main screen. We go into the phone, so whether that's the iPhone, the Android, whatever the case may be, and then we just go connect Android Auto. And on my phone, we just need to make sure we enable. All right, so in order to continue, 3, 2, 1, we're going to continue there. And it is fully connected. So it is that simple to be able to set this thing up. And as you can see, it just launched right into Google Maps, which very, very responsive, which is great. We've got our -+ along the right-hand side. One thing I forgot to point out on the Apple side of things, so if we press and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, we can activate our Google Assistant, or we can activate our Siri Assistant. So obviously if we're connected to the iPhone side, that would be our Siri Assistant, but it's very, very straightforward. Now, very similar to what we saw on the iPhone side, we can kind of push these lower buttons down, but it doesn't go full screen the same way that we saw on the Apple side, unfortunately. Bugs that are getting worked out, and it's just on the Android Auto side, I always find there's something weird with the full screen. So not there as of yet, but we still have quite a few options. So along the bottom tray, we've got my music, notification center, or we can press there in order to launch into the Google Assistant instead. We can press the button along the very bottom if we wanted to get into this, into our podcast. So we've got our podcast, media, etc. Button press in order to get back to this main screen. But as it sits right now, Waze inside of the Sync4 system is unavailable. But we still have a little bit of flexibility here. So as you can see there, we've got Google Maps, we can make phone calls, we can customize the launcher. It's not quite as user-friendly customizing as the Apple side of things, but it still is possible to be able to do it. So on our phones, what we have to do is under search, we're just going to search for Android Auto. Oh, that does happen sometimes. So we just go back up and close, down, search for Android Auto. Perfect. And we're looking for settings. So once settings pops up, we've got my previously connected vehicles. We can customize the launcher now. So I'm just going to do a drag and drop to show you here. So we just press and hold, we drag to the top, and as you can see, it didn't update it. So we actually have to disconnect from Android Auto and then relaunch in and close it down on both the phone and the car in order for any changes we make here to take into effect. So it's not quite as user-friendly as the iPhone side. So Google, if you're listening, update this, make it more user-friendly, but it still is nice all at the same time. We can press back. We've got our Google detection. So yeah, we can press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel. So we just do a press and hold. That launches us in there. Or we can say, hey Google, and that's going to launch the assistant instead. We've got day-night mode for maps. We've got my Android Auto while the phone is locked. We can look at our weather, enable, disable, etc. Then we can also toggle the wireless Android Auto system off completely. So if we just never want to use Android Auto, we can permanently lock it off directly on the phone instead. You've got your current version number along the very bottom of the phone, on top of that which the screen is going wonky, but you might just be able to see it there. There-ish? There we go. So if for whatever reason it's not working properly, just make sure that your phone is up to date your phone is up to date, but then also your vehicle's up to date. And we'll get into the auto updates as we get into that next part. But that's how we set a phone up and connect to Android Auto Apple CarPlay. Now if we press this button along the very top, we've got both phones connected. So if we go into the one that we just connected, we've got some settings available. So we've got my ringtone. We can also set it as a favorite. So if you've got multiple devices connected to the vehicle, we can select which one gets connection priority. So I love the fact we've got that option. We can also just do a quick remove if we want to. 3, 2, 1, and the Galaxy that I just set up is now disconnected. And if we want to, we can easily connect back into that other phone instead. Should take a few seconds. And 3, 2, 1, we're fully connected again. So it's that simple, connecting a phone and then setting up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay inside of this vehicle. Now, one thing I mentioned this earlier, you may notice this come up, and that's just because on the phone as I was connecting, I said that I didn't want my contacts and favorites to sync up. So if you're getting that option and you can't reconnect and it's not giving you the option, just delete the phone from the vehicle, and then you can add it back in to go through and get all those options again. So it's pretty straightforward. But as you saw there, we've got all of our options there. We've got our mute audio and privacy mode. We've got our low battery notification. We can remove or we can reconnect to Apple CarPlay along the very bottom. But that's the basics of setting up a phone, and as you saw there, very straightforward to do it. We then move into some advanced driver assistance settings. So the auto hold setting, what that's going to do is with it turned on, if we come to a complete stop and we take our foot off the brake, the vehicle is going to hold itself in place. So it's a very smart system there. I normally recommend turning that one on. We've got our normal and our adaptive cruise. If you want to know how the adaptive cruise control system works, check down below for the walkthrough on the steering wheel and cluster where I give an example of how that system works. We've got our speed limit assist, so we can get a speed warning if we're going a little bit fast. So if the vehicle recognizes we're 5 up to 10 kilometers an hour over the limit, it's going to give us a little chime letting us know. And that's more or less just our grace period. So let's say if it's a 60 kilometer an hour road and you're going 75, it's going to give you a beep because you're going a little bit too fast. We've got our lane keeping system, which works 3 different ways. So we've got the alert that's going to give us a little bit of a steering wheel shake, like we're running over a rumble pavement. The aid, which will nudge us back into our lane, and the alert and the aid will do both. And it's the intensity of that steering wheel shake. Pre-collision assist, a series of different options available. We can turn the whole system off if we want to, but what happens if we get into a potential collision? So the vehicle can automatically brake for us. And then we've got evasive steering, which essentially puts our vehicle into hyperdrive mode. So it's easier in order to so the steering wheel becomes more responsive so that we can try to get out of the way of a potential collision a little bit easier. And then we've got our rear view camera delay. So if we've got the rear camera on and we go to drive forward, it's just going to give us a few more seconds of that rear view camera on the screen. Blind spot system lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Cross traffic alert, it's someone's coming perpendicular, so left, right side, and we're going to get a potential collision. We're going to get a notification letting us know. Reverse brake assist, as we start to back up, if you didn't see an obstacle behind you, the vehicle will brake for you. And then driver alert is tied into the lane keeping system. So if you start to veer over in too many times without signaling, eventually the vehicle is going to tell you should probably take a break. And we've got some vehicle settings now. So power down timer. So as it starts to go down to 30 minutes, it's going to let us know that the vehicle is going to turn off. Rear occupant alert. When we go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to tell us to check the back seats. So general safety setting, but you could also turn that thing off if you want to. We've got our key detection, so always recommend keeping that one turned on. It's actually not necessarily, but it's more or less going to let us know if we don't have our key fob on us as we go. Easy entry exit. One of the benefits there is that as we go to get inside of the vehicle, it's going to lower the seat down and back it up so we can get into it easier. And then same idea, as we go to exit, it'll automatically lower the seat, bring it back so we can get out of the vehicle easier. We've got options for our power running boards, and we've got either the auto, which means that as we go to open up the door or unlock the vehicle, the running boards will drop. We can have them permanently out, or we can turn them off completely. So you've got a few different options available. My key gives us the flexibility of setting up limitations for the key fob. So things like max speed, max volume, things like that, based off of an individual fob. We've got our serial number, our alarm system. What else is important here? We've got our remote start setup. So we have a flexibility of remote starting either through our key fob or directly through our cell phone using the Ford Pass app. You could turn the system off completely if you want to, but what happens when we remote start? Is it going to be based off of our last settings, or do we let the vehicle determine what the temperature should be? Same thing with our seats, steering wheel, and then do we want a 5, 10, or a 15-minute remote start period? So a few different options. And from there, we've got our wipers. So courtesy wipe, which means that as we have our front windshield wipers going, at the end of the cycle, it'll wait a second, go one more time to get rid of any excess liquid. Rain sensing wipers, pretty straightforward. Power liftgate, we can switch it to a manual if we want to, or we've also got that foot activated power. So we can have it automatically go, and then we've got our hands-free liftgate, which means we just swipe our foot underneath in order for that liftgate to go up and down. Vehicle lighting, auto high beams. So if the vehicle senses that there's somebody oncoming, it's going to dim our high beams. When they pass, it'll bring them right back up again. When we go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps stay on for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 120 seconds, or do they just turn off? And then our zone lighting, so we can override the lamps on the outside if we want to, just based off of what's currently turned on. Different options for our lock. So with a few big ones, so we've got our auto unlock, so as we go to park the vehicle, and then we've got all of these different audible feedbacks. So if we go to shut a door and we don't shut it completely, we go to lock, it's going to double chirp and let us know we haven't shut a door properly. We've got all doors, so when we go to remote unlock from the fob, do all doors become unlocked, or is it just the driver's door? We've got our mirrors, so we do have the option of having it auto fold, so as we go to press the lock button, the mirrors will automatically fold in. And then our door keypad code, so we've got a 5-digit number that we can enter there in order to be able to get into the vehicle if we didn't have our fob on us. There is one that's going to come basic from the factory, and then we do have the flexibility of adding one in if we want to ourselves. And that'll be the basics of all of these. As you can see, quite a few different options that are available there. Moving into our general settings next, so we can change between English, Spanish, French, Celsius, Fahrenheit, tire pressure. We can turn that touchscreen beep off, so if that drives you nuts, we can get rid of it. If anything ever comes up, you also have the flexibility of submitting feedback to Ford directly. And then we can do a reset. So let's say if you've got your Ford Pass set up on your phone, you need to kick somebody off, you can do a reset there. Or you can do a master reset in order to bring the vehicle back to the factory defaults instead. Moving into our display, so as bright and as beautiful as this display is, if you find it to be a little bit too much, you could just go to a calming screen instead. Button press to bring it back to life. And hopping back inside, we've got our settings again. To display, we can also adjust the brightness of the screen here. So if you want it darker, brighter, whatever the case may be, we can do a reset. As of right now, it's technically in the light mode, but you can permanently lock it out to the light or the dark mode, just depending on your own personal preferences. I love the look of the dark mode, so I'd probably permanently lock it out there, but we can flip it out to the auto mode, so depending on how bright it is, it's going to adjust as necessary. As you can see, very straightforward. Moving into our clock. So we've got a few different ways we can get into the clock, either through settings, or we press the clock along the very top right-hand side. That's going to launch us in here. We can change between hours, minutes, AM, PM. If you want that military time, we can do that. And then we can also have it automatically update our time just based off of our GPS location. Connectivity, so along the very top there, we can connect to Wi-Fi at home if we want to, and then it's going to show us all of our current statuses for the phone that's currently connected there. But connectivity, so if the phone wasn't connected, we just wouldn't have these top two options, but it can show data transfer and then Wi-Fi connected. So as of right now, we're not connected, but we can manage Wi-Fi networks in order to turn it on or off as necessary there. So you can see Wi-Fi disappears, and then we want to make sure that we connect to a Wi-Fi network at home. One of the big benefits there is that we've got our over-the-air updates that are available, so we can have it automatically scheduled for the updates to come on at certain times. So it does sometimes take quite a little bit in order for the updates to be installed and download, like 3 to 4 hours potentially. So I normally recommend just like Friday, Saturday night, or whatever the case may be when you know you're going to be home at a certain time, just let it run overnight instead. It makes it way easier. Connectivity, a few other options there. So connected vehicle features. We can share all of our diagnostic data with Ford if we want to. We've got our Bluetooth, which we can also turn off, or we can also adjust the vehicle name. So if you want to give it a unique name, this is where we're going to make it happen. The vehicle hotspot is great, so the vehicle is equipped with an onboard modem. We do need a data-only plan through our cell phone provider in order to be able to use this, but you can use it as a hotspot for up to 10 devices, which is amazing. We can easily toggle this thing on or off if we want to. We've got our data usage, which as of right now, I'm not connected, so I haven't used any data. We've got our settings, so if we want to, we can show the password. We can edit all of our different options there. So if we wanted to edit the name for the network, the password, the frequency, we can even manage devices. So if your kids are connected and they're kind of driving you nuts, you can kick them off of Wi-Fi if you really wanted to. We can get petty if we want. So pretty straightforward there. We've got our automatic system updates, and I always recommend keeping the auto updates turned on and schedule them. Schedule them for a time you know the vehicle is going to be parked for like 3 or 4 or 5 hours at a time, so ideally overnight. It's just going to automatically download the update and then install it for you. Just make sure you connect to a Wi-Fi network at home, going through connectivity. We've got our mobile apps there, so certain apps will only work with this thing turned on, and you may have to be hooked up through USB for certain apps to come through. We've got our 911 Assist, which I showed you that one earlier as we were connecting a phone, but we always want to make sure that 911 Assist is turned on. And the big reason why is because if we're ever in an accident and the phone's connected, it's automatically going to dial 911 for us. Ford Assistant, so this is new for the 2021, or well, I guess technically the 2022 Explorer, but it came in 2021 with the introduction of this Sync4 screen. But it's a more advanced voice assistant than what we'd find in Ford's previous gen system. So this is cool. We've got so many things we can do. Like we can even change the climate, which is amazing. But so many options. So if you want to know exactly what your vehicle can do, we can look through the commands list. We can have it listen for a wake word. So wake words, a few options. So rather than pressing the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, we can do that if we want. But with a wake word, we could now say, "Okay, Ford." And it's going to launch into this instead. We can have it go to a few other options. Advanced mode means we won't get as many notifications. Phone confirmation, do you want to call such and such person? And then the command list is when we press the voice command prompt, this is the list that shows up. So we either use our wake word or we press the voice command prompt, and that's going to show up yes or no. We have some options for towing, which we saw earlier, our trailer sway control and adding in a trailer, and then our ambient light. So ambient light, it is kind of neat with this thing turned on, but one thing to note, we can adjust the brightness, not the color inside of this, unfortunately. So it is just going to be one color, but that's, well, the basics. That's everything you need to know about the controls in the setting now. Exit it along the top, and we can press this little icon along the top and it again into some more advanced settings. We've got our radio now. So as you saw there, it kind of made it disappear, but I'll show you a few things. We've got our AM, we've got our FM, and then as you can see there, we've got all of our available presets. So everything that we've already preset through, very, very straightforward. If for whatever reason, so whatever station we were on wasn't saved as one of our favorites, so let's just go to a random station here. 97.7, good station, these guys rock. Okay, 97.7, so these guys aren't saved, so all we do is just press and hold one of the available spots. And as you can see, it's now saved in, so it's that simple to be able to adjust. We can press this button if we wanted to manually tune instead. So we can enter in that station again, press the go button, and we're fully connected. Press this button along the very top, which launches us into this setting. Swipe it away, and then we go into SiriusXM. So SiriusXM, same idea, we can go full screen or fuller screen if we want to, which kind of pushes these bottom buttons and gives us all of our available presets. But we have so many different options available with SiriusXM now. So along the top, we've got our notification. So when we've got either this phone or the artist come on, we can manage all of our artists there. We can search for all of our categories if we want to. So browse for you, obviously we have nothing there, but we can go music. So we've got all of our different categories and stations, etc. Moving back down, we've also got our user profile, so our basic settings there. So we can look at our subscription. With a 2022 Ford vehicle, you do get 3 months of included service. So if you've already got an active subscription, all you have to do is just call up SiriusXM, give them your basic information, and they'll be able to transfer that subscription over instead. We can personalize, so we can create listeners. So if you have multiple people inside of the vehicle, very, very useful to be able to create individual listeners. We've got all of our different favorites, so as we save out different favorites there, they will be saved. We can see what we've listened to. We can jump into some advanced settings. We can block explicit content. We can reset all of our history as well if we want. And we've got some basic help and support, which, as we can see there, we've got some other options as we connect through. And then we've got our presets. So we saw earlier when we were in our AM FM, that's slightly different. So that button is actually dynamic when we get into the settings radio. So it's either going to show radio or SiriusXM, just depending on what source we have. So we do have a series of other options for sources. If you had a USB stick with MP3s, that would show up as an available option. My phone's connected, so that would show up as an available option there for sources. So a lot of flexibility here. But that's going to be the basics of our audio. We already saw phones, so we can add in a phone this way if we want to. We've got my phone, we've got my dial pad, and a number of other things. Along the very top, we've also got our voice assistant there, so we can activate Siri directly from the vehicle if we want to. We can view our active devices, so all of our different phones that are connected. We can turn off our notifications, or we can jump back into our phone settings as well. So a ton of different ways that we can get into the phone if we want to. Back out, we've got a series of other options now. Into our button along the top, we've got our navigation. So we do have factory navigation inside of this thing, and as you can see, very, very responsive, which is a nice change from the old Sync 3 system. But we can go full screen, part screen if we want to, expand out as necessary. We can recenter back in on us. We can change our views, so full 360, true north, etc. For our where to, so where are we going, we've got a few different ways we can search. So we could press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel if we want to. We can search for an address that way. Or we can just randomly start typing. And just pause for a second. Gives us a ton of options that are available. We can kind of start going through and typing again. Let's go to my old faithful. This is like the address that I default to all the time. We can save it as a favorite. If our phone was fully connected, there was a number available, it would give us the option of calling, and we can just hit go.
Obey
so as you can see
traffic
there,
laws. Be alert and use voice commands while driving.
there we go. So we've got our trip
Please
overview
drive
there.
to highlighted route.
Thank you. We've got our details, so it's going to let us know how far we are for the route itself. We can see our turn-by-turn list. We can edit the route out, so if we want to add in more destinations as we go through, we can just hit go again, or we can trash the address and exit out, and as you can see there, jumping back in, we've got a few other options there. So we're going to go discard and let's hit go. So because we removed the address, as you can see, it's not available there now. So we hit where to. We've got home, work, explore. We can see recent destinations. Let's jump back to that address again. But before we do, we've got traffic alerts. We can look at some other destinations near me. We've got the vehicle range based off of our current fuel settings. Route, do we want the fastest time? Do we want to avoid things like carpool lanes, unpaved roads, etc.? We can jump into our route settings there if we want to, change out a series of different prompts. So our guidance prompts, as we come up to an upcoming turn, do we want voice or a tone? Do we want to get rid of all of our different views there? Calculation, do we want the fastest, shortest, or the most eco-friendly route? Do we want to avoid certain things? So do we want to avoid U-turns, tollways, and fees, and ferries, and 4x4s, and all sorts of different options? And then we've also got the option of doing some custom avoidance, which we can add in there as necessary. Moving back, and let's go back again. And, oh, actually one thing I forgot to show you. So let's hit go for a second, because...
Please drive to highlighted route.
There we go, perfect. So it shows us exactly what the route is as we go there. We can just button press to get back to us, or we've also got the flexibility of kind of rotating the map out as we go. So it's kind of neat how much flexibility we've got inside of this thing. And then press this main button, exit, and that deletes the route for us. So it's that simple using factory navigation. When it comes to searching, we could, if we want to type in an address, we can type in GPS coordinates. We can set up our home or our work address, which is useful because if we go to the same address all the time, we can press the voice command prompt and say navigate home, navigate to work, whatever the case may be. And exit out. We can also look at your trips, trends, and then some other search tools, which we already saw some of these. So search tools, we can go by city if we want to, we can go by intersections, coordinates, or by a phone number. So a lot of different options when it comes to searching for addresses inside of the Sync4 screen of the 2022 Expedition. Moving down, we've got some options for media. So we can see all of our available media there in a few seconds, perfect. So we've got CarPlay, phone list, a few different options available, so currently not connected there. Back down, we've got Android Auto we can hop into, Apple CarPlay. We've got the owner's manual. 3, 2, and this is essentially a fully digital owner's manual. So that means that inside of your 2022 or above expedition, you're not going to get an actual printed owner's manual anymore. It's just going to be this instead. So you can see exactly what's going on. We go to different categories. So inside of your cluster, if you're getting any sort of weird messages, we can kind of go through and see exactly what's going on. So we've got our tachometer, speedometer. If we've got all sorts of other options and things like that, any issues coming up, we can search for different things as well. So a lot of flexibility. We can do visual searches, etc. Down again, we've got Forward Pass, Live One, which is a radio app. So because I'm connected over Bluetooth on my phone, that would show up. And then we've also got Sketch. So if you want to, you've got the flexibility of being able to take notes as you go. Hello. Hi. Oh, sad hi. So we've got this. We can save out notes as necessary, but notes as of right now, so nothing saved. And pressing along the very top again, we've got our base systems there. So a lot of options, as you can see. We press this button along the very top in order to expand this bottom tray out. And these are going to be all of the ones that we've viewed recently. But one of the cool things is that we can easily swipe up if we want to. That launches us into our radio. We want to get into our owner's manual, same idea. We can kind of swipe up as necessary in order to go screen by screen. So there are so many different options. But that's going to be the base of the main part of the Sync4 system, with the exception now of the climate control settings. And that came new in the 2022 model year as well, obviously with the introduction of this larger screen. So as you can see there, we do have the option of controlling our driver passenger temperature. So we do have at least dual zone climate control inside of this. We can have the vehicle automatically determine what the cabin temperature should be. Do we want it going to our windshield face or feet? And we've got a really nice look there. Now we do have dual zone climate control, so if it's different for the driver versus passenger side, we're going to have dual enabled there. So let's hide that. So dual will be enabled. We press that. That just defaults it back to whatever the driver's side is instead. We can see our rear climate controls now, so we can also adjust at the very top to do that. We can turn the front controls off. Same idea with the rear. We can turn that on or off. We can lock out the console in the rear. So if the kids are fighting, people in the back are fighting, we do have the flexibility of locking them out instead. And then we can also adjust one side versus the other. So we've got our one side adjust versus our fan adjustment there instead. Like I said, we can just turn this whole system off. But that's going to be the basics of that'll be the basics of the climate control inside the vehicle. But it does look very nice, especially compared to the way that it looked in the old Sync3 system. So Ford, good job there. Along the very bottom, we can switch between our heated and ventilated seats, just depending on which options we have enabled. Same idea, driver versus passenger side, we can enable one or the other. We can turn on our heated steering wheel. We can adjust the fan speed very simply up and down there. We can hide it. And then one thing to note, these actually will eventually go away themselves, but we can also change for our max windshield or our max rear defroster. And then one thing, so you can see there, we also do have our volume rocker. And then we've got our button along the middle there. So that's going to turn the audio on or off. So really nice. Ford introduced this in the Mach-E, and I love the look of it, love the feel of it. I think they did an amazing job there. But that's everything that you're going to need to know about the Sync4 Media Screen inside of the Expedition. Into display, as bright and as big, as beautiful as this